for a long time now, particularly since the whole end of World War II, we lived in what would be considered a unipolar world, meaning there was one major superpower, the United States of America. And now, especially with the recent changing of the guard over there, so to say, we're seeing some interesting changes in what to expect from that. We saw, well, if you were paying attention, the new United States Secretary of State was speaking about the world transforming into a more multipolar world, as in there are more superpowers out there. It's not just all roads leading in one direction, and the world is struggling to rebalance itself with some of those things, and the changes occurring in the United States to some extent are causing some differences and realignment in how people view interacting with the government, how people view running the government, as this new administration seems to be much more business minded in how they would run that government. And if they are the major superpower that has affected the world for the last 80 years in that kind of way, you'd expect that as they're changing, it would have some effect on the world. Particularly, I am speaking in this particular video about the forages and voyages they are making into battling corruption in their system. With DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, run by the richest man in the world, which is a very interesting thing to think about, that the richest man in the world is aiming to make the US government more efficient. And I could understand the worries that some people are having about what he puts his hands on, if it's going to have some benefit to him and all of that. But in how we have typically been doing things across the world, in particular looking at government corruption and government wastage and government fraud and all of that, it seems apparent to me, and I think to a lot of other people, that the way we have been doing it so far obviously has not been working. How we have been tackling fraud and corruption by governments around the world, at least speaking in the Western Anglosphere, English-speaking world, it doesn't seem to have been working. The governments have just been increasing, their spending has been increasing, and you hear many people in that realm speak about how to solve these things. They always talk about taxing people more. But if the problem is that governments are not spending the money properly, giving them more money seems like a very foolish solution to proffer out there. More money isn't going to solve what a fraudster is doing. So we are seeing them tackling it head on in the United States, attempting to just shave away and shut down some of these extra institutions. And we're going to look at how we tackled it over here in Trinidad and Tobago, because in case you didn't know, I'm speaking from the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and we're going to look at our unique way of tackling it here. Well, not that unique, similar to many other places in the world, and the results that has created so far, and see if maybe us over here, we might even prefer borrowing some of their technique. If you haven't hit that like button yet, please do hit that like button if you like this kind of content. Make sure you're subscribed if you are not yet subscribed. Drop a comment, tell me what you think as we dive into all of this. Let's head over to the United States. They listen in on what their president had to say concerning this whole business of government efficiency and how he intends to run it.
I don't know if it's kickbacks or what's going on, but the people, look, I ran on this, and the people want me to find it. And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it.
But you know, that's a very interesting thing that I always look at with this Elon guy. Like, many people, there's an increasing group of people who are in the team of Team Elon, of course, and in the team also of Team Hate Elon haters. And you hear a lot of the Elon haters say this man is a fluke. He just happened to come across some money and bought all these companies, and that's what making him seem like a genius. But he isn't a genius. But I don't know, the evidence of these things seems a bit strange. So this idiot randomly stumbled his way into being the richest man in the world and the key advisor to the most powerful leader in the world, and launching rocket ships, presumably trying to reach Mars. All that is fluke by an idiot. And I wonder if this guy is cloned, if there are multiple people out there who all agree to pretend to be Elon, because it seems like there are more than 24 hours in the day for him. I just don't know how that is done.
I told him to do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. And, you know, the people elected me on that.
Brett.
The people elected him on that, on attempting to find and eradicate fraud and abuse in their system. That's what he's saying. And that's the aim they're doing it with the Department of Government Efficiency. And the speed they're doing that with is kind of remarkable. They're passing through institution after institution and reportedly just shaving off this here, shaving off that there, shaving off that there. And you're seeing billions upon billions of dollars in alleged fraud just popping up out of the blue. How are they getting that done? The typical way it has been done is you have to launch an investigation and you do an audit, and these audits take years upon years, and eventually after spending just the same amount of money as the alleged corruption, you spend that much in investigating the corruption and get nothing out of it. At least that's how we do it here. And I'm wondering, is it possible that, you know, a new leader could come in, appoint some advisory board, and they go through and, okay, we may not get people in prison, but we just shave off and cut off all of that extra stuff, because you could kind of feel certain there's a lot of extra stuff in there. And to the criticisms of Mr. Musk, I don't know if he is influencing different policies inside there that would benefit him in the long run. But if this Department of Government Efficiency is costing their government basically nothing and going through and doing all of this, I think we need something like that. Because when I look at how we typically look at corruption here in Trinidad and Tobago and what it costs us, something is strange about it. Let's look at this story that recently crossed me. Despite $1 billion spent, investigations into EMBD and Life Sport shelved. The police investigations into the estate management and business development company and Life Sport, which were being led by British investigator Kate McMahon, a special reserve police, have been shelved. Guardian Media was told that despite the work by McMahon's team being close to completion, it has been put on pause. What? McMahon's team was contracted and funded by the government and worked alongside the TTPS through the Anti-Corruption Investigations Bureau and several police investigations. McMahon's team also used Ed Jenkins, King's Counsel, for legal guidance in the build-out of the cases. The work fell largely under the ambit of former Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith. Guardian Media was told that during and after his departure, McMahon's work was being stymied and stalled by the TTPS as requests for warrants to be executed were not completed. There seems to be a lack of responsibility toward completing it, the source said. And you see, therein is the problem. Even if you hire an outside investigative team to some extent, 1-2 people from outside there, but you tell them they must work within the current structure that exists. But the current structure that exists is the one that facilitated some of the corruption in the first place. How do you expect the current structure that exists to go through and rid itself of the corruption that benefits itself? That does not really add up. So, of course, they were stymieing the investigation. And when you hear the details of how these investigations going, EMBD matter involved 2 elements, a civil and a criminal matter. The 2020 status report on the EMBD matter alleged a top former government official orchestrated a scheme that resulted in significant funds being secured and spent by EMBD in the 6 weeks before the general election on 7th September 2015, approximately $549 million. 6 weeks before the elections, allegedly, a top former government official sent out hurriedly all of these contracts. Now, the new government that came in refused to pay out some of the money in those contracts. The companies sued the government for that money. Now, wonderfully for Trinidad and Tobago in the long run, we won those cases, or at least those cases were thrown out. The companies didn't get that money. And now at least the civil side of that case is moving on ahead with EMBD countersuing those companies for money reportedly corruptly gained. We'd see how that case all turns out. But the criminal side of it is stuck. $1 billion we spent in investigating this. And bear in mind, when you say $1 billion spent, that's not like it's not like it's spent like wood. Like, you know, if you harvested firewood, you harvested a ton of firewood, and they say we spent a ton of firewood in the process of this, then we would have spent as in burnt it out. It was used. But when you say used with $1 billion, we don't burn money. Money is used in paying people. So that $1 billion spent so far in the investigation has gone into the pockets of various people. So in pursuit of $549 million, we reportedly have spent $1 billion thus far. Who does that make sense to? How does that make any sense? Like, I am all for accountability. I want, yes, if people broke the law, fine them, put them to prison and all of this good stuff. But why does it feel like part 2 of a con? Like a con man has a friend. So you now went in and the con man con you. The first one con you. And he has a friend right by the door. So you run out complaining to the person by the door saying, hey, this man now con me. And the friend by the door is the second con man looking to take your passage money. The first con man take just your spending money. This second one looking to take your passage money. So you one think he's trying to help you, but he's actually part of the whole con too. All through this, the investigator said there are reasonable grounds to suspect criminal behavior. Yet, we can get nothing of it. Similarly with live sport, it has been 10 years since the controversial live sport program ended and no one has yet been held accountable. In a 2020 police status report on the matter, the TTPS said it had obtained in excess of 25 production orders against individuals and banking organizations and interviewed many witnesses, which has generated valuable new evidence in support of the allegations. Like anybody cares about allegations, really and truly. The new evidence has uncovered clear bribes paid to public officials in return for favors and large kickbacks to high-level public officials who are alleged to be at the forefront of the corruption the documents stated. Nothing to come of this. 2015 is when the government in charge of live sport came out of power. That's 10 years ago. All of the money spent in investigation, we gained nothing back. While millions were lost in padded invoices to contractors, the $34 million payment to educator Adolphus Daniel to teach numeracy and technology to people in the program was the single biggest payment of the program for no work. And you know, live sport, I think live sport is kind of similar to how many people are complaining about USAID and some of those other helpful projects out there, where they would complain that, you know, by cutting some of these programs and getting too in-depth in those investigations, you're at risk of impoverishing the poorest people. How would the poor people learn numeracy and literacy and those things? $36 million to one individual who never really taught a class, allegedly. But you know, no. The problem is we can't stop these programs because they're helping people. You see, anytime you hear the government tell you about helping somebody, know you're in for trouble. And Trinidad is part of the Twin Island Republic, Trinidad and Tobago. It's not just Trinidad, it's Tobago too. And if you look even over at Tobago, I'm seeing something looking like it's brewing very similar there. There was a case out in Tobago apologize for zipline fraud claim. Tobago PNM leader tells Chief Secretary. Former Tobago House of Assembly Chief Secretary Ansel Dennis is calling on current Chief Secretary to stop wasting taxpayers' money and admit that he made a mistake in the zipline case. On Friday, a court ruled that the THA was wrong to say a company involved in the failed zipline project committed fraud. The court found that the THA made an error when it said the company was fake. Instead, the issue was that the project was not completed even though money was paid. And a court, basically, they're attempting to get personal lawsuits on the owners of a company, saying that they committed fraud. The court is saying, well, there's no proof of that fraud, so you could probably sue for breach of contract with the company, but you can't sue the individuals. And what you see, the problem here is that for the politicians, being able to lambast the individuals might carry a lot more political points. If you can say there is fraud, then you could say that the previous administration actually engaged with fraud. But if it's just a breach of contract, then it's not the fault of the previous administration, it's the fault of the company, and you sue them and see what comes out of that. But even with the High Court now saying it doesn't seem like there's fraud, you see, it costs the authorities nothing personally to go on with this. And while I might think in the United States, the USAID and the help for the poor is one of the best ways they do this whole thieving business, in Trinidad, I think the search and pursuit of the corruption is some of the major corruption in and of itself. THA appeals High Court ruling in Tobago's zipline lawsuit. The appeal of this ruling is going to cost money. The lawyers are going to make a feast out of this. Even if they win the case and prove there was fraud, how much money would they earn back? Would the money earned be comparable to the money they spent in pursuit of it? Like, okay, fine. If you win the case, the other side might have to even pay lawyer fees. If you win the case. In the meantime, the taxpayers are paying this money. And here's how a lot of this goes sometimes. So they would appeal this. The appeal has to go through a process. The appeal is going through the process. This takes time. It goes to the appeals court. If they lose in the appeals court also, I don't know if they will. It seems to me like they might. If they lose there too, why not? They're going to appeal it straight to the Privy Council. It's not their money being spent. And that case to the Privy Council is again going to take time. And as it takes time, more money is being spent. Now, what if all of this takes so much time, they'll lose an election in the intervening time? By the time the new party comes in, it's now the new party in control of the government, whatever that governing body is, who is in charge of this case. And they drop the case. This happened numerous times in Trinidad and Tobago, just by the way. The new party comes in, they drop the case or they change the case, and all the money spent to the lawyers has already been spent. And what do we gain from that? Would it make more sense to hire some private sector individual to go through the government in Trinidad and Tobago also and shave off all these aspects of the government that really aid in some of this? Some of these ministries, maybe all the ministries, not just the Ministry of Social Development and the money going to the struggling people. Maybe all of these ministries need some serious public auditing. And speaking of public auditing, we're seeing some trouble even in Trinidad and Tobago between the Auditor General and the Minister of Finance and some bacchanal in there with an alleged missing or misfiling of $2 billion. And even that, more money to the lawyers. Like, can it possibly have some way to solve the issues of fraud, corruption, wastage within the government without having to spend more wasted money chasing down the fraud, wastage, and corruption? It's like the incentive structure currently, at least in our country, in Trinidad and Tobago, is such that it incentivizes you. If we have lost money in possible fraud or corruption, forget about that money. Because to chase down that is going to be more fraud and corruption. What do we do then? Elon, DOGE, can we hire you by chance? Or do you think, bad idea, horrible idea? We just need to pay the lawyers and chase these cases as we have been doing for the last 3-4 decades. And maybe at some point in time, it might work out to our benefit. Tell me what you think in the comments. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, peace.